recording. Thanks.
Okay, on radio.
Thank you. It's 6 p.m, so we'll open the meeting. Welcome to the ordinary meeting of Noosa Council, everyone. We begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that they gathered on, the Gubbi or Kabi people, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Attendance-wise, we have the full complement with Councillor Jackson joining us by the miracle of telephony. Before we go on, I'm going to begin by moving, and I apologise to anyone who's viewing the streaming service or the replay. Unfortunately, we're having a problem with our projector, so that screen at the end isn't working tonight. Nevertheless, I'm going to move that the operation of standing orders or any provision thereof be suspended in order to deal with item 6 under the Services and Organisation Committee recommendations. Item 6 is the one relating to Councillor Jackson's participation in the meeting. Seconded, Councillor Glasgow. I've got no need to speak to it, so...
Councillor Jackson, I think you're going to declare
yes.
conflict of interest and then lead the meeting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I declare that as it's about my own participation, I'll declare that as a conflict of interest, and I shall have kindly disconnect briefly my muted so that I'm not participating.
Okay, I'm just doing that now, Councillor Jackson. I'll
Thank you.
Click that back on when we finish this matter.
Excellent.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor, can we confirm that Councillor Jackson was standing when she was speaking?
Okay, I don't think there's any need to speak to this, so I'm going to put the motion.
Yeah, I'll move.
I was thinking that I'd already done it. Everyone's speaking with affection. Councillor Parton, seconded Councillor Gillespie. And no one needs to speak to this. I'll take it. I'll move it. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. We've got Councillor Jackson to join us. Yeah.
Ingrid, we've just finished that.
Hi, I'm back.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
And I'll second this.
Moved by Councillor Wilkie that standing orders have been reinstated. Seconded Councillor Gillespie. All those in favour? Thank you. You're allowed to say aye to that one.
I'm in favour.
So we now move on to the confirmation of minutes. We're back onto the agenda. The minutes of the ordinary meeting held 20th of June 2019.
Yeah, move, Mr.
Moved Councillor Parton, seconded Councillor Wilkie. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. And now the minutes of the special meeting held on the 28th of June 2019. Moved Councillor Gillespie, seconded Councillor Wilkie. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you, that's carried. There are no mirror minutes, but we have some petitions. Let's start with your petition, Ingrid, if you like.
Sure, I will. Thank you. I've received a petition from Lee McCready, which has been signed by 1,154 people on change.org. And by the way, are you hearing me okay?
Yes, we can all hear you.
Yeah, great. And the petition specifically says, as a concerned supporter of volunteer lifesaving and nippers at Peregian Beach, I request Noosa Council reject any proposed EOI process to give away the upstairs section of the Peregian Surf Lifesaving Clubhouse for non-surf lifesaving use. I support the upstairs section of the surf club being used to provide social opportunities such as family dining, bar and entertainment, for example live music, and contribute funds to the local community, organizations, and most importantly, provide vital support to life-saving activities. So that's the petition which 1,154 people signed. Of interest to me, I've had a look at the signatures, and I was interested to find that in addition to people from Peregian Beach, the Noosa Shire people who have signed the petition come from far all over Noosa, Timbirwa, Federal, Ringtail Creek, Tewantin, Noosaville, Noosa Head, Sunshine Beach, Sunrise Beach, Castaways, and Marcus Beach. And it just reminded me that, of course, many parts of Noosa Shire don't have their own beach, and so coming to Peregian Beach is one of their favourite activities. So I think we've got a petition here which suggests that 1,154 people are going to be happy with the recommendation being put today to Council. To give a permit.
Councillor, sorry, you're allowed to speak for a minute, and it's a minute and a half now.
It's fine.
moving that the petition
The petition...
Yeah.
The petition table be accepted.
the petition be presented to the CEO, just don't do that.
Received and referred to the CEO to determine appropriate action.
Thank you.
So seconded.
Seconded Councillor Jurizovic. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Any other petitions, folks? Yes. Councillor Wilkie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I petition from the residents of Little Cove regarding serious traffic issues. They are the undersigned residents of Little Cove adjacent to the National Park submit the petition seeking clarification for visitors of existing parking arrangements as detailed and changes to the permissible parking arrangements on 2 street corners to improve traffic safety. Involves the request to paint yellow lines across all residential driveways. The curbside parking is now permitted with a 1 metre margin each side of the crossover. Standard size parking bays to be marked with white lines in areas where parking is now permitted in Pandanus, Midi Streets and Cooroibah Avenue. Extension of the existing yellow line from the corner of Cooroibah Avenue and Pandanus Streets on the southern side of Pandanus Street, the 4 car lengths west beyond the existing footpath crossover. Limited parking bay on the eastern side of Uluru Terrace at its intersection with Pandanus Street to be reduced by the elimination of 1 car space from the south. It says, while collectively petitioned, each of these proposals should be viewed, assessed and actioned independently. All are related to residential amenity overlooked by many visitors and some to road safety. None is dependent on another. We seek urgent attention to all. After the petition be received and referred to the Chief Executive Officer to determine appropriate action, please.
Thank you. Seconded Councillor Pardy. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Any further petitions? I have a petition which has 12 signatures, and the petition relates to requesting Council investigate ways to slow drivers down on busy connection roads in Doonan, specifically Duke Road, Eumundi, Noosa Road, Sunrise Road, Beddington Road and Lenahans Lane. Of course, some of these roads fall in the Sunshine Coast Council area and some in the Noosa Council area. I move that this be presented to the CEO for consideration of appropriate action. Second to Councillor Jurizovic. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. There are no notified motions, so we move on to the committee recommendations, and we begin with the Planning and Environment Committee. Item number 1 is the development application for operational works signage at 143 Eumundi Noosa Road, Noosaville. Item number 2, changes to an existing approval to increase the use area at 88A Goodchap Street, Noosaville. We'll go way through a lot of conditions on that one. Item number 3 on page 16 of the agenda is a minor change to a DA-MCU for multiple housing at 186 Cooroy-Noosa Road, Tewantin. Item number 4 was referred to the General Committee and we'll deal with later. Item number 5 is the P&E Court Appeal relating to signage at 1/100 Rene Street, Noosaville. Item number 6 is the P&E Court Appeal relating to an enforcement notice for vegetation clearing at Illoura Place, Cooroibah. Item number 7 is the development assessment fees and charges variations for the period 1st of April to 31st of March 2019. Councillor Stockwell, you're at your feet before I even get to say it. Item number 8 is the Healthy Land and Water 3-year agreement. Councillor Stockwell.
Yes, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest, a real conflict of interest in that I subcontract Healthy Land and Water to provide services to myself as a consultant, trading as Watershed Australia, and I will leave the room for the purposes of this debate and decision.
So councillors will deal with this item separately, obviously.
I'll move, Mr.
Chair. Move Councillor Wilkie, seconded Councillor Jurizovic. You feel an urge to speak to it, anyone?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Right, thank you. The return, Councillor Stockwell, please. Item number 9 is the changes to Plumbing and Drainage Act and Plumbing and Drainage Regulation. Item number 10 was referred to General Committee. Item number 11 was referred to General Committee. The recommendation is that all those P&E Committee recommendations be adopted except where dealt with.
I'll move that.
Move Councillor Glasgow.
I'll second.
Seconded. Thank you.
Well,
Councillor Jackson. Yeah, no, that's fine. All those in favour?
aye.
Thank you. That's carried. We move on to the Services and Organisation Committee recommendations. The first item was referred to the General Committee, so we'll deal with that later. Item number 2 is proposed tenure renewals and tenure renewal status update for community organisations. Item number 3 is referred to the General Committee. Item number 4 is waste disposal fees and charges for concrete. Item number 5 is adoption of Buildings and Facilities Asset Management Plan. Item number 6 has already been dealt with. Item number 7 is the appointment of the 2020 show holiday. It's like a show holiday with excellent vision, isn't it? Item number 8 is the outcome of the Queensland Treasury Corporation credit review. The recommendation is that the Service and Organisation Committee recommendations be adopted.
I see where you're going with this.
2020 vision. Seconded, Councillor Pardon. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. We now move on to the General Committee recommendations. And number 1 is a minor change to a DA to reconfigure a lot at 191 Hollett Road, Noosaville. Item number 2 is the Coastal Hazards Mapping Refinement. Item number 3 is the Climate Emergency Declaration. Item number 4 is an Events Policy, Public Consultation Outcomes and Amended Policy for Adoption. Item number 5 is expressions of interest for community activation, level 1 of Peregian Beach Surf Club. On this matter, I would like to declare a conflict of interest, or a perceived conflict of interest, I should say. Resident Barry Cottrell was a contributor to my 2016 election campaign to the tune of $200 on the 17th of March 2016. I can confirm Mr Cottrell is not on the current committee of Ocean Lifesaving Association Inc., one of the submitters on the EOI. I understand that he may have once held a position on that committee. Mr Cottrell does not appear to be directly a submitter on the EOI process. However, he is, I believe, a committee member of Peregian Beach Community Association. That association appears to have some affiliation with Ocean Lifesaving Association Inc., which is one of the submitters for the EOI. As far as I can tell, there is no direct or indirect pecuniary benefit to Mr Cottrell arising from the decision regarding the EOI. I'm aware that Mr Cottrell has written to Council seeking information about the EOI, particularly in regard to process. I am not, and nor have I ever been, a member of Ocean Lifesaving Association Inc., nor Peregian Beach Community Association, nor Surf Lifesaving Queensland. I believe I can make an impartial decision on the matter before Council, and I seek a decision by my fellow councillors as to whether or not I remain in the room for the debate and vote. Councillor Wilkie.
Mr Chairman, I too would like to declare a potential perceived conflict of interest due to receiving $200 electoral donation from resident Mr Barry Cottrell for the 2016 election on the 12th of February 2016. Mr Cottrell is the President of the Peregian Beach Community Association. The Peregian Beach Community Association did not provide a donation to my electoral campaign. Peregian Beach Community Association was not an applicant in the EOI process for the Peregian Beach Surf Club. Ocean Lifesaving Association also is an applicant in the current expressions of interest process. Mr Cottrell is not a current executive member of ULSA. ULSA did not make a contribution to my campaign. PBCA is noted on the ULSA website as a supporter of the ULSA Alliance. I'm not a member of the PBCA or the Ocean Lifesaving Association or Surf Lifesaving Queensland. I believe I can make an impartial decision on the matter before the Council, but seek a decision by councillors as to whether I remain in the room for discussions on this matter or not.
Councillors, will deal with these one at a time. I'm going to cede the chair first because the first matter to deal with is my perceived conflict of interest.
I'd like to move the Councillor Stockwell be appointed as the acting chair.
Second, Mr Chairman.
All those in favour?
I'll do that.
Aye.
Oh, sorry.
Just to explain the process, councillors, obviously if the mayor can't take the chair of the meeting, nor it would be the deputy mayor who'd take it, but obviously with Councillor Wilkie making that declaration, they are of similar nature, so we should not take the chair to consider that. In fact, Councillor Wilkie or Councillor Wellington can't consider each other's declarations, so it would be appropriate to appoint another person as the chair. I'll probably go back and call for that nomination. So can I ask the councillors who are present other than Councillor Wilkie and Councillor Wellington to nominate someone to be the chair of that meeting for the purpose of this item?
I'll move that Councillor Stockwell be appointed as the acting chairperson.
Is there a seconder for that?
Yeah, second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak to that?
No.
I'll put that motion for that Councillor Stockwell chair the meeting for the purpose of considering the conflict of interest declarations from Councillor Wellington and Councillor Wilkie. All those in favour?
Aye.
That's carried. With all 5. Okay, so I'll hand the chair over to Councillor Stockwell to consider these matters, and as councillors are aware, the process is that you make a determination as to whether or not it is a perceived conflict or real conflict, and then secondly, whether or not you believe that the councillor can stay in the room or should leave the room.
So, councillors, we'll deal with these one by one. We'll do Councillor Wellington's declaration first. Does anyone have any questions in regard to this matter?
No.
No.
It hasn't changed since Monday's meeting. Would anyone like to move a resolution in regard to this matter?
I'll move that the councillor Wellington be allowed to stay in the room.
Well, you need to define whether you believe it's a real conflict of interest
Real
or
conflict.
perceived,
Sorry,
conflict of
I
interest.
sort of missed. Sorry, I missed that. Which person are we talking about? Which councillor
Tony.
is it?
Councillor Wellington.
Councillor Wellington
Okay,
first.
thank you. Thank you.
So you need to define whether you're moving that it's
Perceived,
a real
okay, perceived conflict.
Yep.
It's okay.
Stay.
So the implied motion by Councillor Pardon is written up on the wall.
Yeah.
So that is
Just maybe
the councillors note the perceived conflict of interest declaration of Councillor Wellington and resolve that this represents a perceived conflict of interest in this matter, and Councillor Wellington may remain in the meeting room to participate in the debate and vote on this matter. So, councillors,
I'm moving. Well,
it's moved and seconded. So, those in favour?
yeah.
Aye.
Those against? Okay, so we'll move on now to Councillor Wilkie. Does anyone have any questions in regard to this matter?
No, and I'll move.
Yeah.
I'll move that the council don't perceive conflict of interest in this matter. Declaration of Councillor Wilkie and resolve this represents a perceived conflict of interest in the matter, and Councillor Wilkie may remain in the meeting room to participate in the debate and vote on this matter.
Do we have a seconder for that motion?
Yeah, absolutely.
Seconded by Councillor Pardon. Do we have any debate on the motion? So,
I'll just
councillors.
mention, Mr. Chair, that I will be voting consistently with what I did in the General Committee, and as a result of the statements I had, or the information I had provided, so I'll be voting against this particular motion, and I request that my name be recorded with my vote. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Okay, those in favour of the motion, those
you
who...
didn't show how you voted too, you didn't.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I would say that those against the motion raise their hands, but you can do that with an aye. A nay.
It's me. A nay.
Okay, and we've recorded Councillor Jackson's vote against the motion, and the ayes have it. So I'll now move out of the chair and hand that back to the Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so we are dealing still with the expressions of interest for community activation at the Peregian Beach Surf Club. Move Councillor Wilkie.
I'll second that.
Ingrid, I'll second it.
Ingrid was first, so Councillor Jackson seconded the motion. Councillor Wilkie, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, today's decision brings some direction and clarity for the Peregian community after 6 years of uncertainty. I support the motion and commend the applicant Surf Lifesaving Queensland for agreeing last year to take over the Surf Club permit to help in the divisive campaign to build a bigger building on the dunes. The upper floor of the building has been largely vacant for many years now, with councillors and staff receiving many requests and speculative ideas as to how it could be used. For this reason, I also commend the staff and fellow councillors for hosting an expressions of interest process as the fairest and most transparent way to bring forth and identify the groups with the will, resources and capacity to activate the Surf Club building on the existing Peregian Surf Club lease site for the benefit of the Peregian community. Offering SLSQ Sunshine Coast branch a permit with conditions reflecting their stated commitment to move rapidly towards re-establishing and affiliating a new Peregian Beach Surf Club entity, offering nippers and volunteer lifesaving, which all the community supports, will deliver benefits the community collectively wanted all those years ago, and still do. But it's SLSQ's generous commitment to offer community groups like the Ocean Lifesaving Association access to the top floor, as operations allow, that on face value offers a great opportunity to heal the rift in the community and guarantee the long-term success of the club. It gives SLSQ the opportunity to embrace and be embraced by the heart of Peregian with the Ulster Alliance, supported by many long-standing Peregian businesses, marine life carers, coastal clean-up and revegetation groups, academics, and the community kindergarten, all dedicated to supporting the nippers and fostering a more integrated understanding of Peregian's magnificent beach and ocean environment in the next generation. Some may lament the time it has taken to get to this point, but over that period the Peregian community has become more aware of how critical the beachfront surf club is to the cultural life of the Peregian village, and more informed about the safety that professional council-funded lifeguards provide all year round, and the valuable role the volunteer lifesavers have played on the weekends during the season from September to May. This unprecedented issue has also created the time and space to allow the rise of an extraordinary alliance, which has the potential to make Peregian Surf Club the hybrid model other coastal communities may wish to copy in a time when we've never known more about climate change and the impact of humans, especially our plastic waste, on marine ecosystems. The invitation and hope extended years ago that all parties and council work together to create an inclusive village-scale club on the existing site for the betterment of the Peregian community still remains. Because of what happened in the past and the community's collective hopes for the future of Peregian, there will be considerable interest in how the club will be run. I pledge full support to all parties who are genuinely committed to working together in good faith to make all aspects of this new arrangement succeed and prosper. I fully support the motion.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I'd like to speak.
Yes, Councillor Jackson.
Yeah. I'd like to say I'm very pleased with the decision to give a permit to Surf Lifesaving Sunshine Coast branch. And this allows the great Australian tradition of surf lifesaving to live on at this beloved beach. It's been a long period of uncertainty, as Councillor Wilkie has pointed out, about the surf club building use. And I'm satisfied now that the best solution has been found. I'd like to thank Surf Lifesaving Queensland, the Sunshine Coast branch, the Noosa Heads Surf Lifesaving Club also for the commitment shown to surf lifesaving and to the community. And I'd also like to thank the Alliance of Community Groups who expressed their interest and enthusiasm. The willingness of Surf Lifesaving Sunshine Coast branch to commit to a permit with the aim of recreating a successful and productive surf club is an exciting challenge. It will require a lot of dedicated work, in addition to the usual work of saving lives and training nippers and lifesavers, and it will require a lot of community input and goodwill. So from now on, it's all hands on deck. I'm delighted with the outcome, and I applaud and have high hopes for the Peregian Beach Surf Lifesaving Club, the surf lifesaving community, the Peregian Beach community, and all the people who love coming to Peregian Beach for a swim and a surf. So surf's up, and so let's dive in and do it in harmony. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Stockwell?
I will briefly, because I think this matter is about an expression of interest about the use of the community facility over which there has been contested positions in the community. I think, as the two previous speakers have mentioned, that now is the time for a truce to be called between the sides. Even the icon of Peregian over there is recommending the truce. And I think...
Question, is that an emu in the tree holding a white flag?
It is. Yes. I think it's important to recognise that while there might be contested positions about development potential in public land, there's no contested position about the role of surf lifesaving and the education of youth in the nippers. I'm involved in two youth organisations, one quite large and one quite small. Both have a large number of young people coming from just across the border in Peregian Springs, Peregian Breeze area, and we have to realise that's a reality, and that will be, I believe, the essence of success for this club, is that this facility is used as a centre for the young families that are located in and around the village of Peregian. And to me, that's important to understand that this is about getting a community asset used to its fullest extent. And I only wish that when I was a member of a surf club that we could have a group like also the applicants who weren't successful in the building, because then I would have probably stayed along. But I've tried twice to become a surf lifesaver, and both times I hopelessly failed the bronze medallion.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak? Wish to close, Councillor Wilkie?
No, thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion's carried. We go on to item 6 from the General Committee, and this is the LGAQ conference proposed motion for utility relocation costs. We'll deal with this separately because it was referred from the General Committee to the ordinary meeting. We have some new words, and I'll read those out given the screen's not working, and because it's not in the agenda, the words are different to those in the agenda. It states that the Council note the report by the Project Manager to the General Committee meeting dated 15th July 2019 and approve the submission of the following motion to the Local Government Association Queensland 2019 Annual Conference for consideration and debate. That the Local Government Association of Queensland lobby the state government and public utility infrastructure owners for the development of a protocol that A, ensures equity and efficacy in the relocation or replacement of utility infrastructure arising from local government works, and B, establishes a framework to achieve 1, arrangements for mutually agreed delivery timeframes, 2, appropriate and equitable apportioning of costs based on the remaining life of the asset, and 3, any capacity upgrade costs to be borne by the relevant utility, not the local government. Looking for a mover. Move Councillor Jurizovic. Seconded Councillor Stockwell. You wish to speak to it, Councillor Jurizovic?
Yes, please. Look, the reason I requested that this come to General Committee was to look at the rewording of the recommendation. I think the recommendation is now far more clear and succinct and more pertinent to and precise on the message that we're trying to deliver. One of the challenges for local government with regard to utility services is that we are required to bear the costs of not only any relocation or any changes to the relocating the infrastructure, but also the costs of upgrading that infrastructure, which is an unfair impost upon the ratepayers and our community, or any community for that matter. It should be that upgrades are at the cost of the utility, because they are the ones that benefit from this, and they should bear the costs of any element of upgrade required in relocating services. Also, what we've been challenged by is an ability to have these utility services deliver timely time frames that can be managed, and the challenge there is if a time frame is given and not delivered on, that bears an additional cost to not only council but the community as a result of contracts potentially running over time, and of course frustration by the community in not having works delivered on time. So I believe that our approach to the LGAQ in this matter in regard to costs and timeframes is a timely one, given that some of the challenges we've had on some of our recent capital works projects, and I applaud the council on putting this forward for all councils to consider and become a collective force to approach where there is no current ombudsman that these entities answer to.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, endorse those comments, and we're heading for the Local Government Association with this motion and hoping for support. What we found is on Hilton Terrace, we're trying to build a roundabout there. We found that the big monopolies, I'll call them, Telstra, NBN, Unity Water a little bit in amongst it, have found a new business model. And that business model means that being monopolies, I'm not playing that game.
No, that's what I went.
Monopolies, I found in the business model I'm talking about is we're held hostage to them virtually, and Councillor Juristly spoke about timelines. Well, when you approach them, it's within their time they'll come and move their utility, which for us is a disaster because they can say 20 weeks, whatever fits their contractors to fit the work in, and we're trying to build a roundabout, and we have certain obligations to people we're working with in our community, be it development industry or just be it our own community. So these costs have pushed the roundabout that we budget for, and most roundabouts about 500,000 these days. And I forget the exact figures, but I think these, I'd say monopolies have pushed it. They want nearly $1 million when we got in amongst it. That close, Carl? Very close. So this is why we feel that if we're caught in the crux of monopolies here, just pay up or you don't get the job done. What's happening in Brisbane City, Townsville, Cairns, right across the state? You would think that many of them are getting, it's blatant rip-off. That's what it is, and you would think they're getting ripped off as well. So I think we'll get good support to this. It needs a real good look at. We don't mind paying our fair share to move those the infrastructure that's under the ground. But those prices, when it comes to virtually almost travelling a roundabout price, it's a lesson learned for us in council, because we're going to have to relook at all the intersections we're doing up. When we come to infrastructure under the ground, we're going to have to look at these charges virtually first, get the quotes, and then the construction costs, and then we'll have a real cost. But if we take this across our board in a couple of works, the cost of these jobs is just right out of proportion. And quite frankly, we'll go broke trying to do our normal work if we don't get some action here. So I really hope we get the support for this motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stockwell.
So, as was quite well introduced by my fellow councillor, what we're dealing here with is a game being played by Monopoly.
Can I give you the boot?
And it might be light-hearted, but when you look at the pricing, I reckon that some of these monopolies, being the utility providers, not only are they the electric company where you roll the dice and you have to pay how much, but I think they're holding the chance card. And the chance card tells you if the monopoly is owned, the utility is owned, throw the dice and pay the owner 10 times the amount owed. So that's what they're doing. They're saying, oh, here's what it really costs, and they throw the dice, 2 or 3 times more. That's what it appears to be how you price it. It's got no real link to what the cost of the job is being done. And I think that's number one, about an equitable apportionment of the costs. Now, I was talking to a developer recently from outside the Shire, and he's actually taken one of these big monopolies to court on a charge, and they quoted $200,000 and he got it done for 50. Okay, so it's not just local government where this pricing regime appears to be out of sync with market price. I think the other thing we need to look at there is about when they require, as a result of us doing work, and they try and get us to upgrade their infrastructure while we're there. And I think the example may be the bridge that we replaced in Cooroy at Maryville Road. It had overhead power, but a significant cost in that job was putting the power below, beside the bridge. Huge cost. And I think that is really serious. And I do think it's time that these entities take a good hard long look at themselves. I know by corporatising them, they do have a profit motive, but the purpose that they were constituted in the first place is to provide a public service. It's not to gouge local government.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor wish to speak to this? Councillor Juristly, do you wish to close?
Yeah, look, I think Councillor Stockwell raised a good point. This isn't only local government that is at the mercy of the monopoly that these utility infrastructure entities hold. It is other developers and the like, and I think a fair and more equitable playing field can be attained for all with realistic time frame and realistic costings, and not an initial cost and suddenly a substantially increased cost when we come down to pin them down for their final costings. The costings in the beginning should be indicative of the costings at the end, which is what we found is not been coming through. So I fully support the motion to the LGAQ.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is carried.
I'll raise my top hat, please.
We go back to the General Committee recommendations. Item number 7 is another proposed co-sponsored motion for the LGAQ conference to support the Uluru Statement from the Heart. Item number 8 is the alliance and funding agreement between Noosa Council and the Nature Conservancy. Item number 9 is the appointment of an external member to Council's Audit and Risk Committee. Item number 10 is the financial performance report for June interim position. And item number 11 is a Planning and Environment Court appeal, negotiate decision notice with regard to infrastructure charges and reconfiguring a lot at Tait Street and Eagle Drive, Tewantin. Moved Councillor Wilkie, seconded Councillor Gruslik. This is a general committee recommendations be adopted except where dealt with otherwise. I'll put anyone wish to speak? No, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. We have one report direct to the ordinary meeting, which is somewhat unusual, and that is the Noosa fishing futures. Any questions for staff on this? Hi, Craig, thanks. I'm looking for a mover then and a seconder. Moved Councillor Glasgow, seconded Councillor Pardon. You wish to speak to it, Councillor Glasgow? Councillor Pardon, you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, I will, Mr. Chairman. I'm very excited to see this put together with the consultants as a way forward, a submission that Noosa Council have a look at the Noosa River and the beach and fishing in general, sustainable fishing for Noosa. So I guess with regards to this particular project and a series of projects, I've been on about a 20-year journey here in Noosa to have a look at the sustainable fishing, and I suppose over the years I've focused on the beach, actions on Tiwa Beach, and some of the feedback I got in the previous council and also this council, and some of the activities that were happening on the North Shore, interaction. The North Shore was declared a RAM area, recreational area management. There was a lot of planning went into that, and the interaction these days between fishing people, just recreational people on the North Shore throws up a conundrum for the council, and I guess state governments being where they are in Brisbane are not aware of a lot of issues that this council's aware of. But going forward with the paper and the discussions that we've had now, some of the stuff we've talked about in the green paper, and I'll just read a couple of things out here. Things that we're looking at, a reduction in the length of nets in the Noosa River. We found out through the consultancy some of these nets are 1,500 metres long that can be used in the Noosa River. This has jumped out at us. I wasn't aware of this particular issue, but in this day and age to have nets 1,500 metres long, and it's only this system where it's allowed to happen, nets of that length, is quite a shock. So, but that's just one issue. If we look at a raft of issues in here, we're looking at things like closing the North Shore at weekends, weekend closures. That aligns on Tiwa Beach, etc. Now that aligns with closures in the river at weekends. We're looking at code of practice for the mullet fishery, which I think is long overdue, especially on the North Shore, not so much in the river. I don't think there's a lot of issues there, but on the North Shore, we know, we get the complaints, we know about the issues over there. Exploration of net-free zones in the Noosa River and lakes. And should I say from the outset, all our submissions, we're never against commercial fishing per se, but this is about sustainable fishing. I've said to pro fishers, over the years, when you can't catch a fish in your net, no one will catch a fish. So you won't do any good, and nor anyone else. So that's always been the starting point. Now, I know mullet's sustainable because they run up the coast from the south, and New South Wales have done a fantastic job buying out a lot of licences, Richmond's River, Clarence River, etc. And you can't net around Botley Bay, etc. in Sydney. Done some fantastic stuff. But as the mullet run up here, is it fair that the Queensland fishers just knock them off? Well, I don't think it is. They've got a sustainable fishery. We just catch them up here. So some of the quotas that we're looking at in this paper, I think will help a lot for that fishery. But my main concerns have always been as well the other fishes that are caught the bycatch. We know as amateurs who have fished that beach for over 50 years, the tail of brim whiting flathead, the depletion of that species that were caught as bycatch in mullet nets. Nets don't discriminate when you chase the mullet, so you catch all the other species with it. And that's been a great concern to the people, the fishers, especially the amateur fisherman who's entitled to catch a fish. Who owns the fish out there in the ocean? Well, nobody. Nobody. When you get a licence to fish, that doesn't mean you got a licence forever and to take everything. It does not. It is a licence to fish. Nobody owns that resource. People think they do, but they don't. So they're shared amongst everybody. So in the big picture, going forward, I'm just hoping that some of these recommendations, the state will listen. Now, we know we've got to go out for consultation with the professionals, and that's fine. And there's already been a lot of consultation done with the professionals. And a lot of the professional fishers, they're happy to go too. But they also support what we support, the sustainable fishery. They're not silly. If there's no fish, we catch them all. Well, they're not going to do any good, as I said before.
So, Councillor, you're well over the 5 minutes at the moment.
Okay.
You should keep going. I'll put it to the meeting if you do.
No, I'll just sum up if you give me 1 minute. Do you want
to? Less than that.
Okay, I'll sign 50 seconds. So I think some of these recommendations, if we can get, it's the beginning of a journey here that we're on. And I think if we get some of these recommendations through the state, I think we'll end up over a long period, it's going to take a few years, we'll have a sustainable fishery. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else we should speak to this? Councillor Stockwell?
I feel so, Councillor. This is an interesting month in the number of and range and diversity of big picture policy issues. And as Councillor Pardon mentioned, this is probably the most significant foray into councils being involved in the sustainability of a resource controlled by the state. So, why are we doing it? You know, the purpose was to give us information about the river, the estuary, the lakes and the beaches, and to look at what are the current regulations. And we've actually, both staff and ourselves have learned a lot, and we probably now know more about how this works than most councils in Queensland. It was focused on the commercial fish catch history and how we can influence commercial fishery. But it's important to say that sustainable fishing won't occur by just looking at commercial fish catch. Is that what we need to look at is total fishing pressure and the mechanisms to bring that total fishing pressure, both commercial and recreational, down to a sustainable limit, so that in the long term the river and our nearshore environment continues to provide the bounty of the sea. So I think it's important to realise that there was a good degree of stakeholder engagement, that the consultants in delivering the report that's informed our response to the state paper did a great job of going out and talking to both commercial, to recreational fishers, to charter businesses, to local business and tourist operators on the river, and to conservation groups. And they reported, they said there's a consistent message from the stakeholders I've identified time and time again. And that is that there was recognition that the waterways are under significant pressure for multiple user groups. However, there was some strongly held and divergent views over the activities currently permitted on the Noosa River estuaries and beaches. And we can't shy away from it. It is going to be somewhat contested position moving forward to a point where the responsibility for managing the river for its ongoing ecological sustainability, but also its ongoing productive sustainability, is done hand in hand with the state government. So there was one comment captured which the consultant thought represented the views of many, and it said, the river is being loved to death and it's time to give it a break. And I agree with that. And I think that while we say it's time to give it a break, it has to be a break from total fishing pressure. I think it's really important to say that, you know, the ongoing presence of some of the historic fishing families and commercial fishing in Noosa is an important part of our heritage, and it's an important also to recognise that we have to be prepared for those shifts like came from when licences were eaten up further south or become more difficult further south, the people coming into the river. And it's important, I think, as we have tried to communicate in our response to the discussion paper, that people with the settings, the new settings, should in some way give people with a demonstrated catch history in our area to have the first bite at the cherry in terms of whatever quota is available. I think one of the key things that has been recommended that is probably going to be controversial relates to the trawl fishery. Okay, and it's important we understand that the Skilter report has looked at the benthic biodiversity in 1998 and 2018 and reported that there is marked declines in a number of species and overall abundance in the sediments. Okay, these declines were seen in all major groups of animals, the worms, the amphipods, the bivalves, the snails, and these groups all form a critical component of estuarine environment due to their role as food for fishes, crabs and prawns. They both also do a lot of ecosystem services, turning over and aerating the mud and stabilising the sediment. And they also, in that process, capture carbon. So they also looked at extensive trawling they did in this Skillet report. In the main regions of the estuary showed that there were very few prawns present in the sediments, and these were found in only a few places. Abundance of other nekton, fish and crabs are also small. And given the critical role of the benthos in sustaining fish populations and catch, it indicates that regardless of fishing pressure, past fish catch rates are unlikely to be sustained. They did give us an indication of some of those catch rates. So in terms of the trawl fishery, in 1991, which was probably a high, 26 licences recording catch for a total of 1,103 days, and the lowest point where hardly anything was caught was just 63 fishing days recorded in 2014. And between 2013 and 18, the catch varied from about 0 to 3 tonnes up to just under 11 tonnes. So, Councillor, I believe that it is time to take action, but it has to be together with the state government. It has to be that we are looking at what is the best way that local government, state government, industry and the community can work on it together. And I believe what doesn't go to the state government goes to the review of our Noosa River Management Plan and how we come out of that with something akin to an integrated collaborative natural resource management group that guides locally is, I think, important.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this?
Thank you,
Councillor
Mr.
Wiltshire.
Chairman. Just to reinforce what Councillor Pardon and Stockwell have already touched on, and that is that the strength of this Noosa Fishing Futures paper that underpins these submissions to the state government is that it captures the expertise and advice from people working in this industry and who are interested in having a sustainable fishery. And a lot of the submissions are informed by feedback from commercial fishermen, commercial fishing families. And I think that's a strength of the submissions to the state government. And also I commend the Noosa Fishing Futures paper to anyone who has even a passing interest in the facts about the Noosa River system in terms of the data relating to catch, the catch rates of all the recreational species, the mullet in particular, where the mullet goes after it's captured. I was very interested to learn that there are 2 major processors in Markwell from the Tweed Shire and Superfin from Brisbane who take the bulk of the, if not all, the mullet caught in the Noosa River system, and they distribute that around Australia, some to a bait outlet in Noosaville, some to Sunshine Coast-based seafood outlet. It's just chock full of very, very good information regarding the type of licences, what it entitles the licence holders to do, the catch rates for all those particular licences, the particular areas they're allowed to fish in, It's very good information in the Noosa Fishing Futures paper. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jurizovic.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank the consultant, Winston Harris, for his comprehensive report. I had a vague understanding of the fishing industry in and around the Noosa region. I have a far greater understanding now. I think it's a very comprehensive report that explains so much about fishing, not only in our region, but across Queensland in general, to get an understanding of what all of these terminologies of N1 and the different categories of fishing that are and are permitted within the region. I think the proposals going forward are going towards the Queensland Government discussion paper. It should be remembered that this isn't what Noosa Council is implementing. This is what we're putting forward on a discussion paper to the Queensland Government, who are the ultimate entity that make decisions on this area. But the reforms requested in here are, I think most importantly, one, there's no mention in here of wanting to cease commercial fishing in the Noosa River. I think that's a very important point in there. There is a mention of trying to reduce or eliminate one type of particular methodology of fishing with regard to
beam trawling.
Thank you, beam trawling, and also again, Councillor Pardon alluded to discrepancy that we have here, where we're the only area still utilising up to 1,500 metres of netting, where no other area in Queensland has permitted that. So there are some overhauls that are well and truly overdue with regard to fishing management and the like. The important part of this is what the recommendations going forward are to sustain commercial fishing in the Noosa River in the long term. The reforms that are some of the reforms that are being proposed are consistent with reforms that have been implemented in other areas in Queensland, and those seem to have come to the betterment of the fishing industries in those areas, where it's not a free-for-all and not a fight, but a better managed process and an opportunity for all to actually make a sustained living at this for the long term. And I think that's a very significant outcome of what we're proposing going forward. The other reports in there are equally as important. I mean, you know, the reference to Dr. Ruth Thurston's report and the reports on the benthic layer. I mean, they show the depth and the understanding that we're trying to achieve on our river system and the challenges that provides to maintaining a healthy river for years to come. So I commend all those that had a hand in this. I thank those for the added information and knowledge that it now provides for councillors around the table and for the community as a whole. And I commend the report going forward to the Queensland Government discussion paper for their consideration.
Thank you. I'm just going to speak very briefly, and that is, firstly, I think it's important to note that this report to Council actually offers us two opportunities. One is to respond to the state's discussion paper on fisheries reform, but more importantly, perhaps, it also informs the new Noosa River Plan. And we'll be going back out to public consultation on that Noosa River Plan, with the plan having been informed by the work that the consultants have done for us. And I agree that Winston Harris, in particular, the consultant, has done a terrific job in putting some very complex material together and in speaking to a very wide range of stakeholders in this industry. I want to particularly congratulate Kim Rawlings for her steerage of this process and for recommending Winston Harris to the Council. And Craig Doonan, our Environment Manager, who's done a terrific job of putting all this material together, making it digestible, and indeed he's been on a steep learning curve himself, because I know that his preferred habitat is terrestrial, not marine, being a bit of a twitcher. Nevertheless, he has an incredible grasp of the complexities of commercial fishing now, and he does us all credit. The Fishing Futures discussion paper, by the way, it's worth noting, and again, this is at the instigation of the Director for Environment, Kim Rawlings, has been peer reviewed by no less than 4 scientists. You know, this is a robust process that we've been going through, well supported by experts in their field, and I think we should, all of us, be very proud of the efforts that this council has put in to this difficult and delicate matter. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak who hasn't spoken? Ingrid?
No, but I certainly support all the good things that other councillors have said.
Thank you. Councillor Glasgow, you wish to close?
Yeah, we'll just close briefly. I think we've just talked about it all, as we're all very passionate around the table about what's happening with this response to the state. And I think we're forgetting we've got the Noosa River plan at our cusp right now, and any information is good information when it comes to this hand. And this is paramount in building a sustainable and livable future for both this generation and many more generations to come when it comes to our river system. So I wholeheartedly support it.
Thank you. Councillors, I put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is carried. There's no confidential session. The next meeting is on the 15th of August 2019. Thank you for your attendance, everyone. The meeting is